Donald Trump is currently shocking the market, or maybe it's better to say, bombing the market, after threatening to use nuclear weapons and moving 2 nuclear submarines to geographically critical locations. The market is punishing this right away, going into panic mode, and we've seen this a lot recently, threats of war, conflicts, and at first, a massive sell-off. We're going to take a look at whether this will continue, what you should do now, or if this could even turn out to be bullish. We've got Scott Bessent making some major news statements, and there's actually another important figure in the US economy who just got fired by Donald Trump, just like that, because Trump didn't like what he was doing. And that's why we're going to smash the like button down below, so we can quickly shoot back up to new all-time highs. We're currently in crisis mode, but we've seen that crises in the past have always been great opportunities to buy more. So make sure to hit the like button below for new, higher prices. We can also see here, Calby Menger says every Bitcoin dip means more freedom. They're stacking up accordingly in the supply. That's just something you need to know. The lower the Bitcoin price, the lower the price of freedom here. Bitcoin is a ticket to freedom, and these tickets are now even cheaper. We also have to clearly acknowledge that August and September have historically been the worst months for Bitcoin. In 8 of the last 12 years, the Bitcoin price has dropped in August and September with a probability of 67%. And what we also have to keep in mind, this is really important, is that just as quickly as prices fall here, they can rise just as fast. And how many times, right after there was panic here, were we already back at new all-time highs in the market? Now let's take a look at what happened here, why the market was thrown into panic in the first place. What is it that triggered all of this? Here, Trump says he ordered 2 nuclear submarines to be stationed in appropriate regions near Russia. This happened just a few days after Trump announced the 10-day deadline for Russia and showed progress toward ending the war in Ukraine. And we've often seen this in the past, for example with Iran, Israel, and other regions, Ukraine, etc. There were panic sell-offs at first, and of course, now it's all happening again over the weekend. So what happens on the weekend? We've always seen this in the past as well. All these panic situations lead to even worse sell-offs in Bitcoin, because in the traditional markets, people can't sell off anything. That means you can't sell anything on the stock market. You can't sell real estate anyway. So what do you sell? Government bonds are also hard to sell on the weekend. So what do people sell? They sell Bitcoin or other cryptocurrencies. But what have we seen again and again? What pattern? That after just a few hours or a few days, these crashes were completely made up for. And even if a conflict were to break out here, money would still keep being printed. The money printer will still be fired up here. And in the long run, the thesis basically remains exactly the same. That means nothing has changed about the long-term thesis. We still have central banks operating at money printing levels. We still have governments living beyond their means. We still have politicians who really, truly can't manage the economy. We still have incentives here to keep pumping out money endlessly. And still, nothing has changed about the fundamentals of Bitcoin. You have to keep reminding yourself of that whenever situations like this happen. Yes, we're selling off. But have the fundamentals changed? Is Bitcoin suddenly no longer limited in supply? Is it no longer censorship resistant? Is it no longer decentralized? And if your answer here is that nothing has changed about the fundamentals, then why should you panic? So why shouldn't you take this opportunity to buy in at a good price again? I've noticed it too. You guys have really been buying diligently. I always see that in the statistics from 21 Bitcoin. I just have to give you a round of applause for that. Well, a lot of people have understood it, but some still haven't gotten it. Trump also came out with some harsh words against the Fed again. Saget says here, if the chairman of the Fed refuses to lower interest rates, the board should take control. So, another attack here from Donald Trump. But by now, that doesn't impress us anymore. We're used to Donald Trump taking shots at the Fed every day. What was more interesting here was that Trump announced he would fire the Commissioner of Labor Statistics after the employment reports for May and June were revised down by 258,000 today. Trump says the employment numbers were produced by an official appointed by one of the two, who had falsified the employment figures. And of course, that's a pretty serious matter, that this is now on the table. And then, shortly after, the news came in. Trump has just fired the person who caused all this, is questioning the authenticity of the July numbers, and is calling the figure of 73,000 jobs a shock. So it's really fascinating to see that everything is fake. Earlier, I was talking to some people, and we discussed this too. It's all a scam. Also, Bitcoin, the healthcare system, the education system, the political system, bonds, the bond market, the stock market, the real estate markets. They're not exactly scams, but at the very least, they're all inflated. And no matter where we really look, everywhere we see fraud, we're being cheated. And Bitcoin is simply the lens that lets you see clearly again, where we can see all the places we're being cheated. With the pension system, it could go on, and so forth. And of course, inflation figures, GDP data, economic data, and even with the Magnificent Seven, things like earnings, P ratios, and so on. It's actually all pretty questionable in some cases. Bitcoin really makes you question everything here, even the narratives that are being spread and so on. But we also always have to remember, Bitcoin benefits from panic. That's what Michael Saylor says. That's also exactly what BlackRock has clearly stated, even in their report, where they published again that all major conflicts have led to Bitcoin correcting upwards much faster than it has recovered like other assets. That means other assets crashed just like Bitcoin, but Bitcoin has always recovered the fastest. And that's something very, very important that we need to take away from this. No, panicking right now is a very, very bad idea. The decision. And I just played it yesterday, the video from Ricardo Salinas, the second richest person in the world, who also says, hey, the problem with Bitcoin is exactly what's happening now, that there's a panic button, and that's something you don't have with other assets. For example, if you own a property or a bond and a war breaks out over the weekend, you can't just panic sell it. And by the time Monday comes around, when the markets open again, those people who freaked out realize, okay, hey, it actually wasn't that bad after all. It really wasn't that bad. I mean, right now we've actually dropped below $115,000, $114,000, $113,000, sometimes even lower, depending on the situation. Yeah, it's really going below $113,000 at the moment. So depending on when you're watching this video, it could be that we're even much further down. Let's keep watching and see what happens. And what you also have to keep in mind here is, can Bitcoin just crash all the way down? Because a lot of people think, okay, now Bitcoin is just going to drop into the abyss. No, Bitcoin can't fall into the abyss, because there's always a holder base somewhere. That means we know that about 60, 70, 80% of Bitcoins aren't even in liquid supply. They're not even available for sale. That means there's a certain number of Bitcoins available for sale here. And once those are gone, there are only holders left, and they simply won't sell their Bitcoins anymore. That means, sure, Bitcoin can drop to 90, to 80, anything's possible, maybe even to 70. But at some point it just stops, because then so many holders come in. It just gets so intense here that, basically, lower prices just aren't possible anymore right now, unless something fundamental about Bitcoin were to change. Because we also have the holdless, the hardcore Bitcoin hardliners, who really understand Bitcoin, who know that the fundamentals don't change. It's just the threat on the surface that's making people, well, freak out right now. There's really no other way to put it. And now we actually have Scott Bessent, and this is basically the important thing you need to understand. Why Bitcoin will continue to perform. Why everything will keep going up here, in the medium and long term. He's just tweeting here, the US has entered the golden age of cryptocurrencies. Or rather, they have now entered it. Under Donald Trump, we are exploring new opportunities in decentralized computing and digital payments to unlock the potential of blockchain technology. So set up your companies here, launch your protocols here, and hire your employees here. And guys, do you remember the video I made yesterday? I talked about exactly this. The EU is closing itself off, Germany is closing itself off, and other countries are rolling out the red carpet for people. That's exactly what I said. I said others are offering visas, they're offering jobs, they're making business offers, bureaucratic offers, tax incentives, and so on. And what is it that you guys are doing? They're saying, hey, come to America, come to the USA if you have a Bitcoin company. If you have a crypto company, hey, we'll roll out the red carpet for you. You'll even get some kind of bureaucratic simplifications and so on. You'll have legal certainty here. And in Germany, you don't have legal certainty. You don't get the red carpet rolled out for you. You're a tax slave. And in the end, you just get a thank you. And they say, thanks for paying your taxes. Now you get to pay even more taxes, just because you've already paid taxes. Exit taxation. If you want to leave, that's not possible either. And they're simply saying here, set up your companies here. Launch your protocols here, and hire your employees here. So it's really crazy. And you honestly can't be surprised when things keep going downhill in the EU and Germany. This isn't some random thing that's happening here. It's honestly just pure stupidity. And the crazy thing is, Scott Bessent, the finance minister, actually posts the clip about it. Let's quickly take a look at it.
You all here today. It's grateful to be with you all here today. America is a frontier nation. Our people have always pushed boundaries in exploration, politics, science, and technology. To be American is to be constantly moving.
So what he's basically saying here is that the USA has always been a leader, always at the forefront, especially when it comes to technology. They've always been involved. That's not a word-for-word translation, but that's the gist of it. What's also interesting is that, with all this conflict going on, there's still uncertainty around tariffs. There's global uncertainty. And we also have so much money sitting in money market funds, money that's just lying dormant and could potentially flow into the market. But for that, we need more certainty, at least enough for the conflicts to calm down, both in terms of trade disputes and, of course, the military conflicts as well. This risk-on scenario that so many people are dreaming of, where all that capital flows into the market, can be triggered by two things. Either because things calm down here, bringing more certainty, which would lead that capital to flow into the market, or because central banks simply print so much money, because interest rates are pushed so low, basically when all the floodgates open. And then that money will also pour into the market. So if you asked me, right now it looks more like scenario 2, that sooner or later, even these conflicts, which are currently causing sell-offs, will in the long run lead to endless money printing, and that will then drive up Bitcoin prices. That's just my base case, but feel free to write in the comments below what your base case is, your base case, your base camp. And yeah, so if you want to buy Bitcoin, and I really see you guys are diligently staking, then I'll put the link to 21 Bitcoin down below for you. Definitely check it out if you use the code Bitcoin Hotel. You can get up to 20% off the fees when buying Bitcoin. That's an absolute recommendation. Everyone should. Well, not necessarily everyone there, but everyone should have a place somewhere where they buy their Bitcoin. So check it out, and I'll see you. See you then. Peace out.